back where the lights don't lie. The wolves are watching in Moscow, Idaho.
Yeah, they said it's open and shut, case on ice. But the facts keep shifting under courtroom lights. Evidence tagged, locked in a sheet, but the truth cuts deeper. It's a double-edged sword beneath. Cameras roll, opinions fly, truth's in the dirt, but it won't die. Every headline's got a twist or two. Four souls whisper, we're counting on you. Moscow's calling, truth don't hide. Shadows talk on the witness side. We ain't buying every show they sell. There's a storm in Idaho, and it's raising hell.
Happy Dia de los Muertos, Happy Halloween, Samhain, and Samhain, whatever day that you observe. Okay, since when has restitution gone to reimburse a victim's family for their funeral expenses / memorial expenses? Because we know that Kaylee and Maddie were cremated, so they wouldn't have a full-blown funeral. They would have a memorial service. Now, Ethan wasn't cremated, and he had a funeral service, and he's buried in Washington because I looked it up. The family of the victims, they're not victims. They're the family of the victims. So, they've had multiple GoFundMes, and you would think using these multiple GoFundMes, they would reimburse themselves for the expenses of the memorial services / funerals. No. The Gonzalez family is wanting more money out of Brian as restitution to reimburse them for the funeral services / memorial services. Okay. The state acknowledges the Rule 11 plea agreement filed herein regarding restitution under Section 4. The agreement states the state may seek restitution orders regarding funeral expenses and crime victims' compensation reimbursement. Okay, well, for one, the crime victims' compensation did not cover travel and lodging expenses for attendance to court proceedings. That's where the multiple GoFundMes come in. They use those for travel and for room and boarding. So the crime victims' compensation should have reimbursed them for the funeral expenses or the memorial expenses. The time of the plea agreement, the state was under the impression certain expenses incurred by the victims' families would be covered by crime victims' compensation. After the sentencing hearing, the state was informed that crime victims' compensation will not cover travel and lodging expenses for attendance of court proceedings on behalf of the victims. The state submits the itemization of expenses that were incurred by the victims' families, including expenses not covered by crime victims' compensation, for the court's consideration. The state is affirmatively advocating for payment of funeral expenses as itemized by State's Exhibit 2 pursuant to the plea agreement. The defendant argues that the requested restitution should not qualify as direct economic loss since the victims' families received third-party donations under Idaho Code and controlling precedent. Directly injured victims may receive full restitution despite third-party payments. And I see paragraph above they called it donations. Now they're calling it payments. Unless those third parties qualify as statutory victims through contractual obligations to pay. Applying the Cheney analysis to this case, charitable donations such as those received through GoFundMe arise from voluntary generosity rather than legal obligations. Since charitable donors lack contractual obligations to pay victims, they cannot qualify as statutory victims under Idaho Code. Therefore, their payments do not reduce the defendant's restitution obligation to the directly injured victims. Okay, they're not victims. The directly injured victims were Kaylee, Maddie, Zana, and Ethan. Those were the directly injured victims. We're talking about the victims' families here, not the victims, their families. Are they grieving? Yes. Have they been put through pain? Yes. Did this person attack them? No. He attacked their children. Or they. Well, we don't even know if it's Brian. This person attacked their children. They didn't attack them. This is also supported by public policy consideration focusing on making the victims of crime whole for a defendant's criminal conduct rather than accounting for victims' good fortune in receiving community support. And yes, they did receive a lot of good fortune because they had multiple GoFundMes, like almost $100,000 worth of good fortune. Lastly, the defendant argues that restitution should not be awarded based on defendant's ability to earn money or pay money given his 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years. Defendant's objection provide clear authority for courts to order restitution from life sentence defendants. The statute mandates that courts shall order a defendant found guilty of any crime which results in economic loss to the victim to make restitution to the victim unless the court determines restitution would be inappropriate or undesirable. How did he result in economic loss for the victim's family? Now he did. This person did do economic loss on Kaylee because she was murdered, but how would he inflict economic loss on their family when their family was still going to work every day? So that's one thing I do not understand about this restitution order. While Idaho law permits restitution orders for life sentence defendants, court retains discretion whether restitution is appropriate in individual cases. This discretion enables courts to consider the specific circumstances of life sentence cases, including the defendant's age, health, and realistic earning potential. In this case, there is a history of this defendant receiving financial compensation from family and third parties. I'd like to know who the third parties are. By way of example, the state is attaching summary of the financial contributions made to defendant while he was in custody at the Ada County Jail and the Latah County Jail. In the event that the defendant is able to obtain financial compensation from third parties or family, the victims should have ready access to these assets for the satisfaction of their losses. And no, I don't believe they should have ready access. What I think is, you know, they've got these multiple GoFundMe's. You're not going to blow through almost $100,000 in 3 months. Well, you could, being who we're talking about here, but they should not have ready access uh, to these assets. What should happen is the the state treasurer can portion out what money goes to Brian and what money goes to restitution. This family should not have direct access to his money because they would clean him out because they don't want to see him make it in prison. They want to see him killed. They're pissed off because of that he took this plea deal because they were wanting to see him pew-pewed in front of the firing squad. Additionally, this case has and will attract and continue to attract worldwide attention, which could result in the defendant prospectively receiving monies subject to interception by the state treasurer pursuant to case law. Restitution orders may be recorded as civil judgments under and should be collected from monies prospectively deposited in the escrow with the state treasurer. What they're saying here is they're anticipating Brian making money off of book deals. People want to write books about him. And Lifetime's already making a movie about this case. Will Brian see any proceeds from the Lifetime movie? I do not know. And if he does, it's going to be plucked up by the state treasurer, and then a portion give it to the victim's family, and then the rest to him. This, this case, like Ashley Jennings just said, or should say Slashley Jennings, just said, this case will continue to attract worldwide attention, even though it's so, even though they claim it to be over. It's still going to draw worldwide attention. Respectfully submitted on this 24th day of October by Ashley S. Jennings and William W. Thompson Jr., or should I say William Santa Thompson and Slashley Jennings. There's a lot of greedy people in this case. The G's are a couple of them. They're greedy. I'm not going to say they're greedy grifters, but you have all this money from this GoFundMe. You could have recompensated yourself for the funeral/memorial service, but no, you want this, you want the state of Idaho, namely Santa Thompson and Slashley Jennings, to take all of Brian's money to pay for funeral costs and this and that, because you don't want to see him with no money at all. You're pissed off because you didn't get what you want. You wanted to see him in front of the firing squad. And you made that very clear on the day of the victim's impact statements. You made that very clear that you wanted him in front of the firing squad. And you didn't approve of this plea deal. Was it a bullshit plea deal? Yes, it was. Because there was no, as many times as we hear coming out of the Gonzalez mouth, namely Olivia, as many times as we hear that he'd stalked them, he stalked. As many times as we hear that, we all know, deep down, that's BS. Truly is. It's BS. Because you had the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, stand up on numerous occasions and say there was no evidence of stalking, there was no motive, there was no connection to 1122 King Road or the victims by Brian. But yet, on the victim impact statement, you have Olivia telling Brian that if he hadn't snuck in through the house like a pedo and murdered her sisters, Kaylee would have kicked his ass. And she brought up the stalking thing again, which there was no evidence of it. None. Zero. Zilch. No evidence. It's the Gonzalez narrative that's being pushed here. With the stalking and everything else. It's a narrative that the Gonzalez family are pushing heavily, and they've pushed it on Nancy Grace and Trashley Banfield and Brian Enton and Chronicles of Olivia, which ironically Steve Gonzalez's son is now married to Chronicles of Olivia. But no one saw that coming. But this whole restitution BS is all it is BS. What they want to do is they want to take every single bit of money he has, so he cannot afford the essentials while in prison. That's what they want to do. That's the whole thing that the Gonzalez family want to do. They want to make Brian's life in prison a living hell, which is very sad. And it is sad. I understand that they're grieving over the death of their daughter. It's been 3 years since Kaylee left this world, and Maddie and Xana and Ethan. I know they're all grieving, but instead of turning that grief into rage-filled, hateful vengeance, just accept the fact that even though she's gone, she's still around you 24 hours a day. And think to yourself, would Kaylee or Xana, Maddie, or Ethan, would they really want what's going on in this case? Would they, I know they would want justice, but would they really approve of how their families are acting? I don't think they would. I mean, they'd say it's okay to get angry, it's okay to get mad, but the length that the Gonzalez family is going, I think Kaylee would be shaking her head right now from heaven going, what's my family doing? What's my family doing? Like always, guys, go ahead and hit that like button, the subscribe button. Leave a comment down in the comment section on your thoughts on what I had to say in this video. And happy Halloween, Samhain, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Everyone have a good Thursday. This is True Crime Unleashed, and I'm out, guys. Peace.
Back where the lights don't lie, the wolves are watching in Moscow, Idaho.
Yeah, Everybody said it's open and shut, case on ice. But the facts keep shifting under courtroom lights. Evidence tagged, locked in a sheet, but the truth cuts deeper. It's a double-edged sword beneath.